Hello and welcome to Geekverse Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more here on the Geekverse Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Harcaster, Dylan Musk, and I have with me the Hollow Man, Kirklin Patzer. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. I'm on the tail end of my sickness. I'm feeling a lot
Mm-hmm.
more healthy, and yeah, I'm excited to talk some fun Redfall news, some Nintendo stuff. So yeah, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of good stuff going on.
You
Warhammer
didn't
news.
even.
So
Yeah,
I'm
I was
always
about to
super
say.
happy.
I thought that would be the first thing you mentioned. Is some Total War Warhammer. That's your baby
Yeah.
right there.
Oh, I
But
know.
yeah,
I'm
we have a very
excited.
fun episode ahead. Once again, kind of a slow news week, but we still got some good stuff to talk about. Things have been a little bit slow the last couple weeks, but I feel like soon here things are going to start taking off. But just a quick few shout outs here before we get into everything. A lot going on Sidequest feeds these days. Of course, we're having weekly releases of the Arcane Retrospective, Arcs Fatalis, and Dark Messiah are up now. Dishonored you can get on our Patreon right now, or you can wait until this Friday where that will be up. And then each week this weekend you'll on Patreon you'll get Dishonored 2. And yeah, each week you're getting something new there. On top of that, I did a little solo retrospective of John Wick Hex. So that's up on the feeds now. And then what's the other thing? The other thing is this weekend, at some point this weekend on Patreon, I'm going to record my Mario rankings. I'm going to rank Kirkland every
Ooh,
Mario game I've ever played in anticipation for the movie, which comes out in a couple weeks. So I think
that's
that's
amazing.
like 35, 40 games when I was making my like
Jeez.
short list of because I'm throwing like the sports things in there, Mario Kart and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, the number gets up there pretty quick. So
Is
that'll
there
be a
many
lot
that
of
you
fun.
have? Is there many that you hadn't played? I feel like
Oh,
that's a
dude,
big
there's
amount
like
there.
at least 200 or 300. I don't know.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
so many.
Okay.
I
Never mind
there's
then.
definitely a bunch that like I've never played any of the RPG ones like Paper Mario
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
and Mario and Luigi games. Like there's like at least 15 of those if you combine those two series, and
Right.
haven't touched any of those. So there's definitely a lot I've missed. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. I mean,
That's
I've had pretty
very
much every
solid.
Nintendo console, so each console probably have like a couple of my own, and they're good things to play with friends. So the number gets up there pretty quick. But yeah, look forward to that on Patreon at some point on the main feeds as well before the movie comes out. And what else? Last of Us is done. No more of that. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to shout out. I think that's pretty much it. Anything from you, Kirkland, or do you want to get right into it?
Got Mandalorian weekly reviews on the main feed
Mm-hmm.
and the review feed, so that's lots of fun.
How many episodes? Because I saw on our calendar, like this is like the last week. Is it only like a 4 episode thing, or is it we just not updated that?
We mustn't have updated because I
Okay,
think it's not too long. I think it's just going to be like a 9 episode season.
gotcha.
I can't quite remember what the other ones were, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not on the longer end of it, but we're not at the tail end
Uh
yet.
huh. Well, I
Halfway.
guess that's a good reminder too. Like, yeah, John Wick 4 is out this week, and we'll review that as well. So obviously,
Mm-hmm.
with Hex, with all the trilogy retrospective we did, we're leading up to that. So go check that out later this week. And yeah, I think with that, let's get right into it. Let's start with Total War Warhammer
Yeah.
3. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. We were speculating on like some. I was like, I thought there was a DLC announcement. You're like, no, you're wrong about that, but like maybe soon. And then like a week later, they did.
I don't even
announce.
think. I think it was like 2 days after our side
Yeah, it was
quest or
pretty
something. Like it
close.
was very very quick.
That's happened a lot on Sidequest. I don't know what's going
Yeah.
on here. It's usually accidental, but who knows what's going on here. But yeah, they showed off a new trailer, which was
Mm-hmm.
pretty much only cinematic. And then I read their blog post. I don't know if they've done any more details, but this is the new DLC coming out April 13th called The Forge of the Chaos Dwarves.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta let you take it away if you want to
Yeah.
explain like what's going on here and why this is exciting.
Yeah, this is very exciting for the Warhammer community, I would say, because the Chaos Dwarves have been something of like an entity in the fact that like we don't really know too much about them, and like if you follow like the regular dwarves lore, like they really just don't like to talk about them because it's just like a dark side on their history. Like they just don't like to
Mm.
affiliate themselves with the Chaos Dwarves, and there was a lot of speculation coming into the third game that they were going to be like a base race or at least like a pre-order race where you get them for free as long as you pre-order the
Yeah.
game. It ended up being the Ogre Kingdoms that was like the free pre-order race that came out there. So and like no talk about the Chaos Dwarves. When the big Immortal Empires map came out, we had like all the provinces and everything, but then there were certain sections that were just like blank, and it's like, okay, well obviously there's gonna be some DLC
Yeah.
races that come out there, and the first DLC race was just more Warriors of Chaos, which is like, okay, that fair enough there, and then this was like the first big new one where we're
Okay.
actually seeing like a brand new race. There's like a little bit of controversy around this one too, because it's actually the most expensive DLC
I
that
was
they've
gonna ask
ever
you
released.
how they price this thing because I saw
Yeah.
pre-order, so I'm like, okay, this must not be a free DLC. So yeah, what's going on
No.
there?
Yeah. So this one, if I remember correctly, I think it's like $32 or something. 32 because of like Canadian or something. There's like the
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
conversion there. But in the past they've had DLCs for like $14. I think that was the last one.
And is that a seasons pass kind of thing, or is that like you specifically get this new race and maybe like a new campaign and whatnot, or is there like you're getting this now, but then like in July you get another section of DLC, or how do they do it?
Yeah, no, it's just like the one DLC
Okay,
pack. So it
that is pretty
depends.
expensive for like a solo
Absolutely,
DLC
yeah.
just across the board. Even
No,
that's like a battle pass price, which gives you like I don't know, sometimes months of content. So
yeah,
interesting.
exactly. And like this one is just comes with like three legendary lords, which is like the different factions within the race. So like that would be like your person that you're playing as. They're your faction leader. But like comparing this one to I think it was called Rise of the Tomb Kings, which is a DLC that came out in that was the first DLC of the second game, Warhammer
Okay.
2. And people are comparing it because I think the price point was a little bit similar, like probably around that $30 mark. But that one like introduced again like a brand new race like the Tomb Kings, but a lot of just like new game systems, like a lot of quality of life changes to the actual game itself that
Mm,
you didn't have to buy the DLC to get. It just out with that update.
right, right.
And a lot of people just praised it because of like how original like those races of the Tomb Kings that came out were. Like it just played so incredibly different from everyone else, and it was just a really really solid DLC where like people actually felt comfortable like recommending you to get that one, whereas this one like even from amongst like my own little communities I'm a part of, like it seems like a lot of people that are even like excited for the Chaos Dwarves are just gonna hold off for like a price drop or something, because it's just a little bit ridiculous for how little content that you're getting for what you're paying into it. I'm not really like a big dwarfs guy in general. Like I don't think I've actually like played the dwarves too much.
Mm.
And the Chaos Dwarves, I would imagine they play fairly similarly, but I know they have a lot more of like monster units and stuff like that, which are very fun on the campaign, or like on
Yeah.
battles, just sending them into like a group of units, just like causing chaos. And a lot of their like war artillery, it looks really cool. But really this isn't like the DLC pack that I was really like wanting for. Like I said, like the community was really happy for it, and I'm happy for the community. I'm excited to see how they kind of shift the overall layout of like the campaign map with their inclusion, because that comes with every DLC.
Right.
Obviously they have to add them to the map, so like who sometimes like races will get like shifted around, like people that start in certain areas might get shifted to a different area. So I'm excited to see that change, and again just seeing how maybe overtuned some of these units are. There's a bunch of content creators on like YouTube and stuff that get like early access to the stuff, so then they'll like
Mm.
just like showcase the different units and
Right.
the good ones, the bad ones. But yeah, overall, I think it's cool that they're finally coming, just because it's been a buzz for so long, and like I and many others just didn't know too much about them, because they've just been on the hush hush or something, or the Dowie. That's like what the dwarves call themselves.
Oh, okay.
they,
Yeah.
they don't talk about the Chaos Dwarves, so that's like the running thing. So yeah, I'm excited for like the lore implement too, because we'll just learn a little bit more about them like overall. But yeah, I'm not going to be getting this DLC
Mm.
right at release. And on Steam, I think they do this for like all the Total War releases. If you pre-order now, you get it like slightly cheaper or something. It's like 10% off, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's still it's pretty pricey for what I think you're getting here. Like previous DLCs as well have come out with not a brand new race like this one is, but maybe like two sorry, more faction leaders for like pre-existing races, but for like multiple in one pack. So like one comparison I could make is the Twisted and the what was it? The Twisted and the Twilight. That's what it was. It was a Wood Elf DLC that also came out with a Skaven DLC. So it was like two like actual like faction improvements that had like completely new mechanics for those factions, and those were like $15 DLC. You don't get 3 legendary lords with the DLC, but still like you're getting a lot more content there. So I'm already kind of like like a cheapskate. I feel like I'm always waiting for like DLC price drops and stuff like that before I actually get on them. But yeah, this one in particular, when I saw that $30 mark, it's like, wow, okay. Like even if I was on the fence of like getting them now, it's like, okay, I really don't want to get them because $30, like that's
Yeah,
wild there.
That's nearly like half the price of the full game.
Yeah.
When it sounds like this is like 2% of content's worth of like what.
Yeah.
So is it like I'm just a little confused. Like for the Chaos Dwarves, is it like they take a dwarf race that already exists and then there's like some new leaders and a couple new units, or is it like is it fully new from the ground up in terms of like systems and whatnot?
It'll be its completely own race.
Okay.
Like they won't like they'll be completely against each other. They'll probably be like those are like the permanent enemies I would say on the campaign map. And like for in terms of systems, because I haven't played too much of the dwarves, I can't really like speak on like how they play in particular, but I would imagine they have like the essence of like what it feels to be like a dwarf, with like their really strong sieging. They have very high leadership, so they don't run away from fights often. Like they'll usually fight to the death. I imagine it'd be pretty similar for that, but it's mostly like the new like monster units and stuff like that, and just they'll probably get some access to like some certain demon units. In the trailer they showcase them like kind of working with some green skin units, which are kind of like the orcs of the Warhammer world. So and like just some of their like from that trailer, just them showcasing like that like castle thing that they're in, like it's just a very cool tonal shift for what we're used to seeing on dwarves, which are just, I mean, if you've played,
it looked like Mordor with like mechanized dwarves. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, so like that stuff is really cool, and like the different legendary lords that they have showcased. I believe one is like a magic caster, which are usually just super strong because magic is so OP in that game. And then I think there's 2 just like melee lords, but I imagine they have some really cool like special mounts that usually come out sometimes. They're like flying on dragons and whatnot, so I'm
they
really
showed something like that, like a manticore, whatever it was in the trailer and the blog post.
Yeah, that thing looks badass. So I'm excited to see that on the game. And this could be something that like I'm a little bit standoffish right now, but if I actually see them play, it's like holy shit, they look super fun, and like just maybe I'm getting my ass kicked by them multiple times makes me want to buy that DLC. But just a little bit strange with the initial price point, I would say. Pardon me. There's something that Total War has done, and I think they're still doing it, which it's kind of like a subscription thing where you pay like, I don't know if it's $5 or so a month, might be more than that, but you actually get like access to all the DLCs. So it's like a subscription thing that way, which is actually really cool, because if you like some of the DLCs at full price, some are 15, some are 30, but there's like 70 DLCs, I would say, across all the games. So if you don't have any of them, I think that's a really cool like barrier to entry point. Like it's not so high to get your hands on some of these DLCs, because especially if you're a new player, like you won't know which ones to get or like which ones would be fun for you. So that is a really cool thing that they actually implemented, I think just within the last year, like of Total War Warhammer 3 coming out. And I'm not sure if there's like a time delay, like maybe you don't get access to like a brand new DLC right away. Maybe it would come a little bit later. I'm not too sure. I don't subscribe to that service because I already own most of the DLCs.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I mean, it sounds like just based on everything you talked about this game, like even without this DLC, it's not like you're hurting for content. So I think that probably makes that price point even a bit more difficult to justify. But yeah, I was like reading up on like just in the blog post they were describing like how this race functions and stuff like that. And it seems like logically the dwarves are very much based off the economy aspect of the game, which obviously I don't really know what that means in terms of how the gameplay is, but it seems like their general strategy is a lot of combat, a lot of fighting, so that you essentially want to like win battles so that you can enslave your enemies and then make them work in your mines to build up that economy. Which like that's a pretty like that sounds like a fun play style, like a lot of aggression, maybe like little battles here or there, even just to you're not even like trying to take a larger land, but you just want to get a few like people captured or something like that.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty interesting play style, and definitely one that would make other people on the map, whether you're I don't know, single player or I guess playing online, make people pretty pissed off at you and
Yeah.
create some good like drama there. So they seem like a good addition. Not that I'm sure there's other races like that are pretty aggressive too, but it seems like a nice addition. But at least from what you said, not like the dwarves aren't really like that. So that's kind of a cool
No.
for people who like that play style. Now they have a different way that they can engage with the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like my favorite race in the game, which I actually really don't like the way that they were changed in Total Warhammer 3, I think I talked about it on the last side quest, is the Dark Elves. And they play similarly, how they're a very aggressive faction. Like their economy is basically just wrapped around how many like wars they can just be in at a time. Like they're like constantly fighting to get income, but also like they have like a slave mechanic that they take their exactly. It's not the most appropriate thing, but for a fantasy
it's
setting,
a fantasy
it
world,
makes
like,
sense.
Whatever.
Yeah. So like their economy is directly like attributed to that. So the more battles you fight, the more slaves you get, the more your economy just booms there. But the more people just hate you. Your own public order in your cities is really low because it's just like run by slaves and they try and revolt. So it's an interesting like balancing act, but the way that they kind of shifted those systems in the third game, I just am really not a fan of it. It just seems like you have to like micromanage the system so much to like make it like effective, and yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it. So I'm hoping they do like a mini rework in the near future, because I'm pretty sure they're actually the least played race in this game. Which I mean, if you see that if you see that stat, it's a good sign. You should probably change something. But I'm a little bit hopeful because like the Chaos Dwarves have a similar system, so maybe they'll maybe take some inspirations from that and implement it over to like the Dark Elves, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that they're calling this patch going along with this like the 3.0 update. So you would think that there'd be other stuff included in there, and maybe it's what you're saying of there's some good like quality of life, just like basic features that are sent to everyone, and then the like people who actually buy into the DLC specifically will get the Chaos Dwarves and that extra content there. But hopefully there's some other stuff that you can at least check out when that comes out, and then I'm sure you'll pick up this DLC at some point down the road.
I'm a sucker.
Would you try would you like jump into that subscription for a month for $5 just to try the new race out for a month and see if it's like something worth buying for you? Is that like a worthy investment, or you're like, I'll just wait for it to go 80% off on a Steam sale or something?
Like in theory, yes. I feel like there's no reason not to if it's just like $5 or whatnot. And if I just have like, I don't know, a weekend to just jump in and play like a full campaign, I think that's very much worth it. But I feel like every time I'm seeing a DLC that I'm really, really pumped for, I'm usually just buying it like straight up, because I know I'm going to be playing it for months and months and months. So but I mean, that option's definitely available to people out there. I'm not sure if it's like cheaper for the first month or something. I know a lot of subscription systems do that, but yeah, for me, I'm not itching to jump on the Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah. I saw that this developer as well just opened a new studio. I think this is their third studio. So I don't know what all the Total War, because I know there's like not just Warhammer Total War. There's other stuff. Yeah,
they have like historical games as well as the fantasy ones.
So that's cool. I mean, it's obviously a good sign that developer's doing great, which makes sense if they're charging you $32 to get this new update for their game. Like they're just swimming in the dollars enough to make a new studio. So that's pretty cool, and I'm sure that'll just be even better, greater and better things for the series going forward and their other games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like Total War is the type of series that it's kind of surprising how many games they actually release, because like I think the last one would have been Total Warhammer 3, and then before that they had like Troy came out at some point, and then they had like Rome Remake, which was like a remaster of like one of like their most favorite historical games, and like they just like bounce back and forth of like dropping these other, like they had Three Kingdoms, which is mostly historical, but it kind of like sways over on that more like fantasy side of it, and like but these games just came out like really not spaced out too much. Like the overall systems are pretty translatable for like Total War games in general, so that probably helps a lot that they have like the main base mechanics like in place already, and there's probably some assets they share amongst the games to just speed up that push out cycle for games and whatnot.
Let's move on to Redfall then. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry to anyone listening who's like, man, you guys talk about Redfall way too much, because I feel like it has been a lot. Like, they're doing a lot of trailers and a lot of marketing for this thing. And obviously, I'm just such an arcane head that I want to talk about all of it. But like, since that big showcase in the Xbox showcase last summer, they've really been going hard on the marketing, which maybe shouldn't be too surprising. They did the same thing for Deathloop, and I wonder if it's because Arcane, like, other than that first Dishonored, still hasn't like become a household name where they are games market themselves. And obviously with Redfall, Deathloop is our new IP, so they really need to like get the word out there for people to try these things. And I imagine though, with the Xbox formula, now that they are day one into Game Pass, like the first time Arcane Studios is going to have a game releasing there, like that will probably be just that alone is a huge marketing bump for them, beyond what their things are before. But I say this because like they did the other showcase in like the end of January, I think, or maybe early February, where me and Taylor broke that down. There's a big Redfall display there. And then like 2 or 3 weeks ago, me and Travis were talking about another trailer that they just released, which is kind of just a random trailer thrown out there. And then just a few days ago, they dropped a new trailer, the story trailer this time. And I do feel like this one was needed to an extent, because to this point we don't really have much of an idea of what the overall story is going to be, and now I think we
Mm-hmm.
have a greater concept of that. But Kirkland, it's been a while since you've been on the podcast talking about Redfall. Obviously, we're going hard on Arcane with the
Mm-hmm.
retrospective, but it's been a while since on Sidequest we've had Redfall when our weeks have lined up here. So, yeah, I just you haven't really talked about Redfall in a while. So, what are you thinking on this thing now you saw more of this, and what did you think of this trailer in particular?
Yeah, I mean, Arcane's just been with me these last few months,
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't like fully escaped the like the Redfall being in the back of my mind. It's
Yeah.
not hasn't been the forefront of my focus, but yeah, I'm still very excited to hopefully be able to run it as long as my PC
Mm-hmm.
runs well. I'm hopeful though, because like especially running through Dishonored 2, it's like okay, this is running smoother than maybe I was initially
Okay. Nice.
expecting. It's not ultra graphics or whatnot, but as long as it runs, it runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, for Redfall, I mean, like just the systems are so what's the best way to say it? I can like see the systems like translated over from like other Arcane games, and they're systems that I like really enjoy of just like the overall movement of the game. This trailer also had like a lot more gameplay of just like okay, yeah, no, this looks like it's gonna be lots of fun to go through with friends. And like to your point, I do think this trailer was necessary to come out of just again like to your earlier point, Arcane isn't like the biggest household name where their games just sell themselves. Like they do have to showcase at least what's going on in the game. They've had a couple gameplay trailers now, but to show maybe a little bit different gameplay moments, but also just tie it in with the more story aspect to it and some of the villains that you're going to be fighting. I feel like I personally didn't need this at all because I just trust Arcane
Yeah.
so much that I can just jump
Same.
in and I think I'm going to have a grand old time with it. But I really like just the uniqueness of some of the villains that you'll be fighting. They just really cool designs and the overall art style that kind of translates amongst Arcane games. I'm glad that they are like maybe they're changing it up to fit the narrative of the story that they want to do, but they're really staying true to their roots and like really. I feel like if I look at a game like Deathloop or Redfall or Dishonored 2 or 1 or anything like that, like I can really just see like the Arcane stamp on them even without
Mm-hmm.
playing them, just like the overall look. And I'm so happy they haven't gone away from that because I love the art
Yeah.
style. I love just like the tone and the feel that you get from their games, even though like sometimes you might be in Dunwall where it's like really dark and just dour and then
And
something like
cold and
Redfall, yeah,
metallic. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then like Karnaka, like it's a lot brighter and whatnot, but still a little bit depressive. And then like for Redfall now, like it's a completely different feel to it where it just everything looks like it's apparel and like just it's like a apocalyptic event, but it still really feels like an
Mm-hmm.
Arcane title. And I really like this trailer. But yeah, I don't think I particularly needed it, but I'm glad it still came out because I do want this game to sell really well. I want Arcane just all the
Mm-hmm.
success they can possibly get.
Man, with the, if you're able to play this game has like full crossplay. Just me, you, and
Oh,
Dante trekking around and whoever we get, Taylor, Travis,
it's
whoever wants
Games
to jump
Pass,
in.
right? Yeah, that's
Yeah, in our
easier for them
fourth
to jump
slot.
in.
Oh, that would be so much fun to do a little
Yeah.
co-op adventuring. I think that alone like changes the vibe of this. And obviously, you can play it in single player, so you retract that statement if you're playing it in single player, but that will just, I think, change that vibe in terms of being more lighthearted and fun, even if the story here is pretty dark and dour still. And obviously the sunlight is being like sucked away so that these people can continue to live for forever, which is a cool concept. But it's funny when the trailer first kicked off and it's like a kind of a woman's voice and she's saying that she was essentially like this test patient and like one drop of her blood is going to change everything and all this stuff. And the way it explains it is that essentially it's pretty classic, bunch of rich people. Think about how like Dishonor, all this corrupt people at the top, are using their means to try and create just immortality, essentially, which is, I think they get what they wanted, but they also comes with this vampire side effect, which I don't know if they intended to have. Then we'll have to find out in the story how much they knew about what was going to happen here. But that general concept, like it's good enough setup for me. And then, yeah, I like this classic thing that Arcane loves to do, once again, where it's Dishonored and the targets, or Deathloop and the visionaries and stuff like this. You know, they do a really good job of setting up these antagonists, even if you're not spending a lot of time with them on screen, just through dialogue, whether it's computers, whether it's notes, or just conversations you're hearing through like audio logs and whatnot. They do such a great job of setting up these villains, and it's where, like, if I saw this trailer from another studio, I might think, oh, these like villains might seem kind of generic, and that's kind of how they are now. But I know when I'm in the game and I'm gonna be able to explore and learn all these details about them, that I'm probably gonna be really invested in them. That I'll be a bit different, that they're big, huge monsters, and I can't talk to them, and they're not humans and conceivable in that way. But they all have a very unique aesthetic, and that seems like a good goal to strive towards. And it has a bit of that Breath of the Wild energy, where it's like in Breath of the Wild, you're going around this world and there's 4 divine beasts and you got to take them down, and then you can, challenge the big final boss. And I feel like that's what's going to be the same thing here, an open world game where there's 4 bosses. I'm guessing you can do them in any order. Do you agree with me on that? Do you think you could probably do them?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe like there's a better one for what your build is to do first, or maybe an easier one. But, obviously Arcane, do things however you want to do. That seems really cool. And then, yeah, I feel like there'll definitely be like some hidden 5th enemy final boss thing at the end of that, if that is the structure. And if it is more linear and you do each one, I could see the 4th one being the last one. That would make sense. But also with this like online element of it, I am curious, like, I'm sure there will be a credits roll moment, but I just feel like structurally it's going to be something quite different from the studio that we haven't seen before. So yeah, I'm into the story here. Once again, for me, like a big part of the narrative for Arcane games is the just environmental storytelling of walking through a town, walking through a house, not even necessarily reading the notes. Obviously that is a big part of it, but even just looking around, you can kind of just infer what happened here. And I think Redfall is going to be great. And like even seeing the imagery we get in this trailer and the other ones, like, man, I cannot wait to just trudge through these houses and go looting, and sometimes a vampire might be hiding in the closet or something. But it just, oh man, I can't wait. And it's kind of a weird thing too, where it's, the studio that made Prey, like obviously Arcane is 2 different studios. It's the one that made Prey, but then Harvey Smith, who was like the creative director of Dishonored 1 and 2, is like now over at that studio. So it's him as the creative director with the studio that made Prey. So it's kind of a weird pairing there too, in a way that I'm interested to see how that feels in terms of the design and whatnot. This was shown off before in the Xbox showcase, but they have revealed the like pre-order bonus, or the bite back edition, which is like essentially, I think the reason they're doing this as a day one thing is that they, with Game Pass, a lot of people, myself included, even though I'm a huge Arcane guy, I'm not really going to buy the game. I'm just going to jump in day one. So instead they have this like bite back edition thing, and you can get, and it gives you bonuses, and then it will give you access to DLC down the road. And like the most interesting thing for me there is that there's 2 new characters that they've said are going to be coming to the game. So what do you think about that? Like, we're getting at least 2 more characters for a total roster of 6 here. It's kind of interesting. We haven't really, I mean, I guess if you think about it like a Dishonored DLC, like, okay, you play as Dowd in this one, but this is just very different. Now there's going to be 6 playable characters in this game.
Yeah. I like it a lot because it adds more maybe replayability of like wanting to go through it as a different character. And if you have a full squad of 4, you're probably like most of the time just going to be sticking to your one character if you have a full squad of 4, unless every once in a while someone wants to swap around. But I'm hoping that they, I don't know, like just have very unique mechanics not just from the other characters in this game, but like different mechanics that I haven't seen in an Arcane game before.
Yeah.
Because Arcane brings some of the coolest game systems that just really make the player put in a situation that they can get as creative as possible with the tools that they've been given. And I feel like with the tools that they give you, it's like you can get more creative than is necessary, and I love that for Arcane, and I really hope that that translates over. And I have no reason to doubt that that wouldn't, because they just have such a great track record of making really, really fun games. And I hope it doesn't even stop at 6 there. Like, just keep going, especially if that sells well.
Yeah, if it's popular, that would be great as well. Yeah, one of the concerns I mentioned when I was talking with Taylor about this was that, like, okay, am I going to feel like they're diluting what is like normally like one in-depth or two in-depth characters across these different ones? And like with the idea that like, oh, you play co-op though, and you can kind of use all these abilities together. Like, I hope that single player experience, even though day one I'll probably be jumping in with friends and stuff, I hope that I can still, for years down the road, just get a lot of enjoyment out of this. And like, these games, like, I want to play every character, so I'm going to have multiple playthroughs. I don't know how exactly multiple characters works in terms of you jumping into a friend's game. Can you just pick a new character? Is it like carry over your progress? Does each character have their own progress? Is it this whole, like, I don't know how all that works, and so we'll see how the DLC falls into that. But I mean, even looking at this once again, like from the studio that in the Prey Mooncrash DLC, there's kind of like 4 or 5 characters in that you're switching between these like runs and stuff. And so they've kind of done this idea before, and in that it was very much intentionally like, okay, each character is very much only good at one specific thing. You could not be a jack of all trades, and you have to make them kind of work together with their different abilities to accomplish the goal. So I hope this has a little bit of that, but then also each of the characters have enough depth to them that you can have a good experience. If, like, let's say you only do one playthrough, and you only play, like, throw a good 20-25 hours, and you're only going to check out one character. Hopefully each of those characters has enough depth to them that you're going to enjoy that time the whole way through.
Absolutely. A thought that just popped in my mind. Arcane's becoming this the studio now that has like very iconic like protagonists from their roster, whether it's someone like Corvo, we got Colt now, like we got some really cool characters. I would love if they go like a Ubisoft route and just like bring those characters like from other games into it. Obviously they would have to like change the systems a little bit to make it more applicable to this specific title. But if I don't know, if I get the opportunity to play as Dowd or something and go slay some vampires, I think that would be cool. A really, really cool concept. But again, like I feel like it's not the easiest to translate over, because like what you just have his one sword or something. That doesn't really make sense.
You mentioned Colt. I think that would maybe be the easiest one, because that is still a first-person shooter, which this is kind of that at its core. Dishonored, not really a first, like, you have a crossbow, you have a gun, and you can shoot them in a first-person perspective, but you wouldn't call them like a first-person shooter in that same way. So that would make maybe the most sense as a translated one over, but that would be really cool. That's what the DLC characters were, just like some throwback characters. Like, I don't know, they could get away with just not even explaining it, and in terms of like the lore aspect of it, and just say like fuck it, like we just wanted to do this because it'd be fun. But I also could see, like, this is supposed to be set on like an isolated island. It would be separated from where Dishonored takes place. We know that Deathloop and Dishonored are in the same world, kind of ish technically. So I very much could like see this being in those worlds in terms of the powers. Once again, it's like, it's kind of different the way you use powers in Deathloop than the way you use them in Dishonor, whether it's like you're given the mark of the outsider and stuff. But like the fact that, like, okay, magic just exists in this world and there's different ways you can access it. And we saw it, like the girl who had the purple powers in this, like she's using all sorts of classic arcane sort of magic abilities and stuff like that. So I could see them doing something like that. And yeah, just saying, fuck it, Corvo's in this game. Deal with it, have fun.
I would totally be happy with that. Yeah.
That'd be really cool. Okay. Yeah, that's coming out May 2nd. Oh my God. It's so soon now. It really does feel like it. Now that we're like pretty much halfway through the retrospective, it's like, man, this thing's coming out sooner than I'm expecting. So very much looking forward to that. How about we take our first break and we'll be right back. Kirklin, I know you've been busy playing Warhammer, playing Arcane stuff. Yeah, like crazy. Is there any other games you've been playing lately that you want to shout out?
Not really. I randomly
Okay.
just threw on like a Bloons Tower Defense 6 game. Go shout out that game, man.
I feel like
like
once a year you're like, I gotta hit some blues.
like
right now.
actually, yeah, no, like it is that, and I'll just play for like one sitting, and I'll just be satisfied for like a whole year. But like, I don't know what
Mhm.
it is. I have such a nostalgic memory for like tower defense games of just like playing on like my iPod Touch on like the bus, the city bus going to there and back from school and whatnot, and just killing time. And I
Mhm.
obviously I love my strategy games, so I and Bloons Tower Defense 6. It's multiplayer too. I played with a friend a couple
Oh
times.
damn.
It is,
Nice.
yeah, it's fantastic. But other than that, it's mostly yeah, just
Mhm.
Dishonored 2. I was playing a lot of that last night. I was
Nice.
homesick from work today, so yeah, I was playing a lot of Dishonored 2 and getting ready for the retro there. And
Mhm.
but yeah, other than that, not so much. I actually played a little bit of Warzone over the weekend. I
Oh
took like a
cool.
hiatus from that for a little while, but jumped back in and I still got it. I can still get some kills.
Nice. Yeah. I guess you haven't. Was that the first time you checked out the new map,
Yeah, first time on Rebirth.
Ashika Island?
Yeah, that one. I love the aesthetic and everything for it too. I really like the map, and I feel like I just got so spoiled with Rebirth that like when the actual Warzone 2 came out, it's like this is great, but like just not my cup of tea anymore. Like I am just so much more like more of a fan of the faster pace action
Yeah.
and all that stuff and the quick revives. I just feel like there's a lot less downtime of just more time having fun,
Mhm.
killing people.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the win on the bigger maps with no respawn they feel a bit better because of the
Yeah.
stakes, the scale of it, and like the just time investment. But it still feels great to get a win on
Oh yeah.
on like Ashika Island and all that stuff. So I'm still really much enjoying that. I haven't played in a couple weeks, but I definitely want to get back in there. It's just eternally a good time.
Absolutely. I got my one solo win on
Oh
actual Warzone, so I feel like
wow,
I'm just
nice.
satisfied with it.
Oh, you mean like on the OG map?
On the
That
OG
one?
map,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that was a while back too. I
Mm-hmm.
remember
I remember that. Yeah.
I got it. I was very proud of myself, and then yeah, got Rebirth Island. I feel like it is still satisfying though, especially if it's in like a very combat heavy situation that you
Mm-hmm.
just there's so many teams, and because it's such a condensed area,
Yeah.
there's just so much more action. Yeah. It's very much
Yeah.
geared to my play style, I would say.
That's good.
Balls
Yeah,
to
it's
the walls, chasing
fantastic.
kills.
I love that map. We've had so many iconic games
Oh yeah.
playing that. Just like the different closes, like just because the map is so well designed, there's just so many I can immediately picture in my head, just like some intense final
Yeah.
skirmishes and stuff like that.
I
Such
like
a good formula.
I like how they have like the tunnel system too. Like that's really cool and how
Hmm.
it
You
goes.
gotta be careful. You gotta know your exit though. I mean, we've had
Yeah, no,
screwed over by that a
I've
couple
got screwed
times.
multiple times just choking on some gas because I can't find the rope to get out of there. But
Yeah.
still, it is a cool system because it adds layers to the map where I don't know, like maybe the zone is closing a certain area, but like there's really a more optimal
Hmm.
location to be, not just in the zone, but like which layer of the map you're
Yeah.
kind of being on.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like too. Another thing that I actually really enjoy is the combat, like in the water, like sneaking around in the
Mm,
water, going underneath, and just the boats and stuff. Because that was in Al Mazrah, like that the standard map in Warzone
yeah.
2. But like a couple rivers and stuff. Like I feel like I interacted with boats like 2 or 3 times in water. I never really understood the mechanics just because it was
Yeah.
not really used too often. But that's something I actually really enjoy, which you would not expect that water combat in a Call of Duty game would be good, but it actually is great. And especially when like the final close is just completely in the water and it's
Yeah.
just a total mess. It can be a really good time.
I haven't got my boots wet enough. I
Oh
think to
yeah.
feel comfortable in there. Taylor has had some crazy highlights. I've seen some
Hmm.
videos that he's had in there. He's just a little seal or something.
He's a great swimmer.
Swimming there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. I wanted to shout out just one game today because yeah, other than I've really just been playing a ton of arcane stuff. I'm excited for Resident Evil 4 remake, I should
Mm.
say, comes out this week. So I'm gonna be picking up that, and that'll be. I finally haven't played a new game in a little bit here, so that'll be nice. Got a review coming out for that next week, so that'll be fun. I should shout that out at the top, but I forgot. So other than that, yeah, I've just been playing a ton of arcane stuff. I've been playing a bunch of different little Mario games, just kind of getting ready for that ranking by testing out some stuff, playing out some 3DS stuff, which we'll talk about in a bit here. And then really the other thing was I've been playing through Metroid Fusion. Kirkland,
Ooh.
I don't really know what your history is with Metroid. Have you played many Metroid things in your day?
I haven't played a lot. Is Fusion the 3DS one? Or
No,
no?
that's Samus Returns or Return of
Okay.
Samus. It's one of those two. Fusion is one of the Game Boy Advance titles, but they just put it on Nintendo Switch Online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I've played the I don't even know if it was 3DS or just regular DS, but it had like a LAN like multiplayer function, and I remember I was at like a friend's birthday party. I didn't even have like a DS
Hunters?
at the
Is that
time.
Hunters
Yeah,
maybe?
that's
Yeah, yeah.
exactly what it was.
Hunters
And
is a lot of fun.
I remember having lots of fun with that. And other than that, I think I just played like a little bit of either the first one or the second one, like one of the earlier titles.
Okay. Yeah.
And really that's it other than Smash. But always been fascinated by it. I thought what was the newer Dread? Was that?
Dread, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
2
one
years ago.
I was really interested in, but just never bit the bullet on it. But because you
Mhm.
got that one right, you enjoyed it.
I did, yeah. It's fantastic. It's either my favorite or my second favorite in the series, and I've only
Okay.
played like 5 of them, so it's not a huge big deal that it would be that high. But I love that game, and I have it physical too. So if you want to borrow it at some point,
Ooh,
let me know.
I'll
Maybe
travel over to your neck of
Yeah.
the woods and grab it.
I'll send it in the water. You can swim.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed Dread, and I've always dabbled a bit. My first entry into the series was Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance as well. So it's kind of interesting. It's almost a bit of a full circle moment to go back and play another one on the Game Boy Advance. And like Zero Mission might still just be my favorite to this day. Part of it is nostalgia, but like it is just a great game. And yeah, so I've dabbled in the other ones. I've only played a little bit of Prime, so I've mostly played the 2D ones, and that's what Fusion is, of course. And it's been a weird experience. Like it started out really strong. The first like couple hours I was really enjoying. It's that classic Metroid gameplay, you know, unlocking new areas, getting new abilities pretty quickly and all that stuff. And then I like another hour or two in, I was getting like a little bit bored by it, and I just felt like the overall world, the way it was pieced together, was kind of boring. It was just like, okay, there's this one room with a bunch of elevators, and then you just keep going back to the elevator room, and it sends you to the new zone. You explore it, you come back, you go an elevator to this other place. Whereas Dread did a really great job of like all the areas were connected in a logical way, and there's multiple ways to get in between them, and then there's like a tram system that you could use to do the more fast travel ways. And so obviously going back to Fusion, like obviously this is like 20 years ago now, so it's not going to have that level of iteration that Dread had. But then the game starts opening up a bit more, and like the systems that you've been building up, like the security systems, elevators you've been unlocking, they just like break down at some point. So then you're like crawling through the walls and stuff like that, and that becomes a really interesting part of it. And now where I'm at, I think I am more at a part where, okay, there actually is connections between all those areas, but they were just hiding them until this later part of the game, and you have more powers and you can sneak around in different ways. And so that part of it is all right, but I think it falls a bit short in that this is a criticism I had a couple times in Dread, where sometimes you're just completely stuck and you don't really know where to go. And ultimately, like what you have to do is just like bomb a bunch of random corners until you find the one hidden block that you're supposed to go through. And in Dread, from what I remember, I think there was like a scanner that you could use. So it may once you got the scanner too, you could just do that and you would be able to find those things a lot easier. But man, there has been so many times in Fusion when I am just stuck. I'm like, I guess I'll just bomb every corner of like this area that I think I'm supposed to be in, and then like 5 minutes later, I'll like, okay, I guess I found this little block here. And a couple of them, it's like once I've done it, I'm like, okay, I guess there was something that was sort of hinting to it, but in the way like games these days, like put yellow, lines on everything, or like, guiding light toward the door you're supposed to go in. And like just games have gotten really good at telling you where to go without just explicitly having an arrow on screen. Fusion is not that. It's like it is such a mess to find things sometimes. So I don't know, I've gotten a bit frustrated with it a couple times, but it's, as like most Metroid games, it is pretty short. So I am gonna see it to the end. I think I only have an hour or two to go, based on, because I have had to bring up a guide a couple times. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. And then the game also gets like pretty hard at times, which I'm not ashamed by this, but I'm definitely cheesing it, where on Nintendo Switch Online with those games, you can just rewind. You can go back seconds, a minute, even sometimes you can create save slots if you want, just outside of the game itself, like at points even when the game normally wouldn't let you save. So I'm abusing that big time. And I just did this boss that I do not know how the hell you would beat this boss without the cheesing that even with that rewind feature, I rewinded probably like 30 or 40 times to when I was like getting hit, to go back so I could try again. Like that many times. Imagine if I wasn't doing that and I had to go back to my save, go like, trudge through the building, get to that boss fight again and start from the beginning every time. It had so much health. It covers so much of the screen. Since it's a Game Boy Advance screen, like it's pretty small, so you can't see like where it is most of the time. And it's like just fucking brutal. It's called the nightmare, so it kind of makes sense. It's like, well,
Okay.
this thing is a nightmare, but I don't know. Like if it were not for the Nintendo Switch Online like cheesing that you can do, I don't think I'd ever would beat this thing. I probably would have given up here, and especially if I was
Yeah.
playing this as a kid. If I had this on Game Boy Advance back in the day, there's no way I would have beaten this game. It's impossible. So, yeah, that's definitely a criticism I have of this thing. Just a bit too hard.
No kidding. And like, how far back is the save from the actual boss fight?
I mean, the save, like
Like
with
the
the
in-game
save,
save.
the in-game save, it's not. It's only a couple rooms away. But the thing is, like, the boss fight probably would if you do the complete run of it would probably take you a good like 10 minutes. So just imagine like getting 8-9 minutes in, like dying, having to start from the beginning again. And I feel like I have pretty much got all the upgrades that I could to this point, all the energy
Oh,
cells,
okay.
whatever those called, all the missile packs. Like I think I'm pretty much loaded up to as much as you can possibly be. And there's just like no healing that you get in the middle of this fight either. So you're just essentially on, and he does so much damage. It's crazy. It's just a bit too much for me, which it's weird because I've always heard people praise this game. People love it. It's maybe one of their top Metroid games and stuff. And I'm just kind of perplexed by that because beyond the difficulty, I just feel like the frustration of not knowing where to go. And like there is some good moments, but even those good moments, like I feel like they're short lived and then it's just back to like tedious stuff again. So I don't know. I'm almost playing through it like just because I want to say I've beaten the game, I guess. But even then, it's like I'm
Yeah.
kind of cheesing to get to the end. So I don't know if I don't even know why I'm doing it at this point. I should probably
I
just give
mean,
up. But
There's
I guess I'm
probably
doing it for all the people who say they love this game, and I'm like, I want to see it to the end just to like give it a fair shake. And I know it's not that long either, so that helps.
I feel like majority of people that have probably played that game have not beaten that because
I
like
would hope so. Yeah.
especially like without having like the cheese system in place because of the Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Man, games are just used to be so hard. That's probably why there's just so many that I
Yeah.
played so much, but I just don't remember actually rolling credits on.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, even then, like Zero Mission back in the day on Game Boy Advance, I don't remember that being an easy game by any means, but I was able to beat it without guides and stuff. And I beat it like multiple times. Like it was a game I really enjoyed, and I don't remember ever having like frustrations with it. And maybe that's just different place and time and stuff like that. But it did seem like a very stark contrast to what Zero Mission was. And maybe it's because Zero Mission was kind of like a soft remake of the first game, so it was like the game is simpler or something like that, whereas
Yeah.
Fusion is like the fourth in the series or something like that. So maybe that has something to do with it. But because once again, it is Game Boy Advance, and I just love the pixel art of that era. I love the music, so the game looks and sounds great. I love Samus's suits in this game too. Look amazing. So
Nice.
there is still a lot of stuff, great stuff to enjoy. It's just a little frustrating at times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did you so you bought my gosh, easy for me to see. You beat it in just like one sitting, like you just went through those 40 tries right there?
For
Or
the
did
boss,
you like yeah.
for the boss, yeah, I just was like, hey, I because it's one of those things too. Like I don't know how long the boss is, so I keep thinking that I almost got him. His
Yeah.
face is like drooping. Like each time you hit him with a missile, like his face starts to droop more. He's like a weird alien thing. And it's like, man, the last few tears of this thing, like he's looking like a Evil Dead Deadite or something like that. His face is completely demolished, but then he has like another 5 minutes worth of battling life in him. It's there's no health bar over his head, so it's unclear
Oh,
like
that's the worst.
how far along you are. Just his ambiguous face color and droopiness that is very unclear. So
I feel like if I'm in situations like that nowadays, I just park the game. I come back to it like the next day or something, sleep, come back to it. I had that with Dishonored. I was on a certain location, Dishonored 2, I should specify. I was in a certain location. I'm like, I don't know what is going on, but this is a hard game for me. Maybe I just played too much Dishonored in my day. It's just so easy. Coming to Dishonored 2, I haven't played. But park it, come back the next day. It's like, oh, this is so clear. This is so obvious where I have to go now, or what I should be doing here. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's happened many times. Whether it was like Kenna and the Bridge of Spirits, there was one boss that was just kicking my ass. Came back to it the next day, first try, no problem there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty classic thing that I do in like Souls games and stuff, Elden Ring, Dark Souls. Like
Yeah.
that's very effective for me. Is putting it down, come back the next day, and just like beat it first try.
Yeah,
Just like coming in with a clear head. Sometimes that's all you need. You just gotta let the frustration go. Yeah. Okay, with that, let's
It's a good life lesson too.
No, it's funny. I mean, that is something I noticed too. And I've been climbing religiously for the last
Oh
year,
yeah.
and I find that too. For like, okay, this problem's destroying me. Like my body's sore. I'm like maybe a bit frustrated. I can't get this move that I feel like I should. And then I'll just like leave it for. And this sometimes I don't even do just like the next day. I'll just come back like 2 weeks later and try this problem again, and just like crush it first try. And it like feels so good. And it's like, man, I guess I've grown in this time that I left this thing behind and gotten
Yeah.
stronger and gotten better and all that stuff. So. Yeah, a little bit of a life lesson jammed in there. I like that. Let's transition over, keeping in the Nintendo realm, though, to the Nintendo 3DS. So I shouted this out last week on the podcast that the Nintendo eShop for the 3DS and the Wii U are shutting down on March 27th. So if anyone wants to acquire these games legally, now is kind of the last time to do it. And of course, physical cartridges and stuff will exist forever, but those things will go up in price. And I'm sure as soon as these shops close, like those used game stores, they could just jack these prices up immediately
Yeah.
because there's not a $40 version on the eShop and stuff like that. So just first of all, a reminder to people, if you do
Yeah.
want to get those things, go right now and do it. It is a bit weird. You got to connect your 3DS account to your Switch account, and then you have to buy it on the website. It is a mess, but that's why you should look into it now and not on the 27th and get frustrated when it's not working and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we wanted to just talk about the 3DS a little bit, and I was thinking about doing a solo episode for this, but it's weird. Like the 3DS is, I do like it, but it's like the 3DS and Wii U era for me were definitely a spot in my Nintendo history when I still got the consoles, but I was definitely much less into Nintendo at that time. Largely, I was just playing a ton of Melee, honestly. I was going to so many tournaments and stuff that like I did not care about anything modern that Nintendo was doing, but I was also like playing more PC things or on the PS4 or Xbox 360 still. And that was just definitely like when I was playing less Nintendo things. So they're not a series of, the Wii U and the 3DS, not consoles that I have a huge affinity for necessarily. But in this last year, since they announced the 3DS closing, I've been checking out more titles for it. I've been looking for things at those game shops when I go, see what's like on a good price or what's on the eShop on sale and stuff like that. I've been picking up some stuff and finding more an enjoyment for it once again. And I did have some games I liked back in the day, but I never really owned that many. And so I wanted to do this conversation with you because I don't feel like I solo cast. I don't know if I have the juice in me to do this topic all on my own, but I did want to dedicate something to specifically the 3DS. I'm sorry, I am kind of shafting the Wii U here, but the Wii U is a weird case where almost all the great games from that console have been ported to Switch, are available in other ways. And the 3DS is weird because it has the double screen. So obviously like a lot of those things just will not get ported or can't easily get ported to a Switch or to any other console and whatnot. So first of all, I'm curious because I know you have a 3DS, or at least you did because you've played Awakening.
Yep.
But I don't even know, like, did you even really play much 3DS? Do you have any great memories with it? Why did you pick it up in the first place? I feel like I've probably talked to you about this years and years ago, but I can't recall anymore. So what's up with that?
Yeah, I do have a 3DS. I have a nice little blue one, not the big like XL version. I remember being jealous of my friend that got one of those. It's like, damn, I just wish I had a bigger screen, and that is nice there. I bought it at my first job ever, working in the kitchen, and I think I just randomly I had an itch to just jump on like Pokemon or something. Like I just really wanted like that handheld. I never had maybe like a Game Boy, like non-color, like the original Game Boy way back in the day,
crazy.
hand-me-down, but like really like no Game Boy Advance, no Game Boy Advance SP. Like my cousin always had one, or like friends around me always had them, and I was always jealous of them, just like being able to play these like Pokemon titles. And I never had them, and I just really wanted to jump onto Pokemon. So I think around the time X and Y were coming out, that's when I got mine. And Pokemon X, I played the absolute shit out of that game. It's probably my most played Pokemon game out of all the titles. I really enjoyed it as well, probably just because that was like the one I actually had. Had lots of fun with it too. Another big reason why I wanted to get the 3DS was around that time I had heard that they were bringing like certain Legend of Zelda games that I hadn't played to the 3DS, one being Ocarina of Time. I believe Majora's Mask was on there as well. Yeah. So yeah, a bunch of titles that I always heard were just phenomenal, but I never got the chance to play them because I never had like an N64 or something. So I thought it was really cool that they're coming to those handheld titles, and So yeah, like that, and that was pretty much like I don't even know what other titles I have on my 3DS other than like Awakening that you lent to me that I still have. You know,
I know. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
brought out all my games. I'm like, I don't see Awakening here. I guess Kirkland still has
It's right
that.
here. Yeah, I got it. It's in
Nice.
safekeeping. So yeah, like Fire Emblem, and then just Pokemon, really, and then the big like jump up was the Switch, because I
Yeah.
feel like everything that I wanted out of the 3DS translates over to the Switch, which is funny because the Switch isn't 3D.
Mhm.
I don't think I ever really used the 3D function for the 3DS. It was mostly just it was the newest DS at the time, and that's what I was jumping on it for.
Yeah, I feel like most games that I've played did not really use it in any way that I found that interesting. I'd use it
Yeah.
sometimes here or there. I almost just used it because I felt like I should. I'm like, oh, I bought this thing. Like, I
Yeah.
should use this feature. I do think Fire Emblem Awakening actually was one of the best ones for it because it would have the weather effects and stuff. There would be like snow or like
The grid
wind and
looked
stuff.
cooler. Yeah.
And yeah, like it would make the maps feel like just bigger and better because they'd have like the buildings and the structures and stuff. And
Yep.
it would help to outline like where the walls were and stuff, which sometimes in Fire Emblem games it is a bit unclear
Yeah.
with the 2D art style, like where exactly the borders are and stuff like that. So I feel like Awakening strangely was like one of the ones that actually did it the best. And yeah, some games like obviously all games like allow you can just turn the 3D off, so that would not necessarily be an issue when they're ported in the games. But yeah, and even so many games too like have the bottom screen functionality, but like they're not really any meaningful use of the double screens. You know, it is very few titles that actually use that in a. I can't even really remember what Fire Emblem does. Like, because the top screen is where the battle would show,
Yep.
and then obviously the bottom screen would be like you clicking around and stuff. But when you're in a, I'm trying to think now.
It would show like your inventory as well, like
Okay,
if you had a character selected, it would like show their face, their stat, and like kind of like their inventory there. So it was a nice way of not having to like bring up that menu like in the middle of the actual grid screen or whatnot. Like you could kind of reference it there, but
Yeah.
nothing too crazy there.
Yeah, I going back to just the hardware itself though, like I remember really loving just the feel of it. I liked having the trackpad. I forget what they call it there, but I felt that was really good. And you still have the D-pad to do like I don't know for platformers or even for Fire Emblem. It's nice to do that. But I really like the trackpad. It's one of those things I always worry is gonna like break, and then like I won't be able to use this thing anymore in like a Joy-Con-y sort of way. But I really like the hardware, and I do have the XL one here. I have I have the Mario, it was the Luigi 30th and the year of Luigi 30th anniversary one, and then I put into the breach stickers on there.
Very
the Zelda
nice.
sticker that's really cool. So I really like the look of this one. It's kind of like the
That's
silver
awesome.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just put these stickers on there, and now I'm like in
grab
love
mine.
with this thing again. Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see it. But yeah, I mean, it's the screen. Like I have the XL one as well, and the screen is humongous. Which is great. And okay, I want to see Kirkland's here. So
It was
you
close.
mentioned you got the blue one.
Yeah. I actually have stickers on there as well. I completely
Oh,
forgot.
okay.
I have those are characters from Attack on Titan.
Nice.
So they're like it's a little dusty actually. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, I was gonna
Kinda-
say, is that an
yeah.
effect on there? But it's just the dust.
Clearly I haven't touched it in a little while. But I do have Awakening in there right now.
Nice.
Look at that. See, it's in safekeeping. I got it right
Beautiful.
here. Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love
no,
those
I
cartridges
love this
too. The
beautiful
little gray kind of SNES
Yeah.
sort of cartridges that they have for it.
So as you can see, very small compared to yours.
Yeah, you don't have the.
Ugh.
I got the XL screen on there. Oh,
Look at that thing.
It's
So
pretty
jealous. It looks
it's
so
pretty
good.
monster.
And
Yeah.
like I do love the trackpad and everything on this thing, but because it is smaller, I found like if I'm really like using it a lot, I would just get like a hand cramp or something. Like it's just
that's
not
too bad.
ergonomically correct for like what it should be, but I think they perfected it with the XL for just like ergonomics at least.
I know that and Joy-Cons too. It's like they design these things for fucking babies to hold, man. Like I don't know, like come on, like throw us a bone over here.
And to your point with the trackpad, like I did have that thought. Like I think I'm just gonna break this every time I like
Yeah.
move this around. It just feels very flimsy and classic Nintendo
Mhm.
quality, where it's just very plasticky. But I mean, it
Yeah.
hasn't broken, so clearly they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, the reason for getting actually both 3DS and Wii U was I didn't get either of those at launch, but even though I was a big Nintendo guy, I had a DS and Wii at that time, but like I said, I wasn't playing a ton of new Nintendo stuff. But the selling point for me was Super Smash Bros. 4. That's just like no matter where I am in my life, I will. Even if I'm not playing video games, I'll buy the new Nintendo console to get the new Smash Bros. Like that's just my favorite series, so I need to be in there. And also the reason why you might think, okay, well, why'd you get both consoles then if you just wanted to play it? But because they released the 3DS version like months before the Wii U one, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to get both of these because I definitely want the Wii U console version, the bigger screen with the GameCube controller and all that stuff. But I'm not going to wait an extra 6 months or however many months it was to play this thing. I need it right now. So I got it in preparation for Smash 3DS, but I got it a few months beforehand, and I think Fire Emblem Awakening was like the game that I bought the console with to have something to check out right away. And that was great too, right? Because that was very much one of the great Fire Emblem games. It had been a few years since I'd played a great Fire Emblem game too, so it was at a perfect time as well. And so it was a really good time to get into the 3DS. And then, yeah, Smash, I still remember, like me and Clinton, on the day that came out, we were like at Walmart waiting for the store to open so we get this 3DS cartridge. And then we just like sat in his car and played for like hours because we just like could not wait even to go home to do this thing. We just sat there, just played all the time. They had like a demo with only like 4 characters. I played that to hell. I was just so excited about the new Smash. And for me too, as a huge fan of the series, to have a portable version of that was like the coolest thing ever as well. And now obviously on the Switch, like the Ultimate, you can just play it in your handheld version too, which weirdly I don't know if I've ever done. Now that it like exists, I actually kind of prefer the 3DS in terms of being the handheld console for Smash, because I'm just so set on the GameCube controller for playing these games that it's hard for me to not use those. Like it doesn't feel the same. But yeah, Smash 3DS is still a great game, and even though it's kind of been outclassed by the Switch version of the game, it still is fantastic, and it had that Smash Run mode, which was exclusive to that, which was really, really cool. You didn't have Smash on?
You reminded me. No, I did actually.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I remember, like, I think it was pre-podcast even. Like you, me, Travis, and Taylor were hanging out playing Smash or something back when I just absolutely hated the game, getting bopped constantly, and then I was like, well, I have like a 3DS, and I know there is like that 3D version, so might as well. I call it the 3D version, the DS version. I never really played it in 3D, but yeah, that Smash Run mode was actually really, really fun.
It was great.
Very unique to the series, if I remember correctly. Like it's not in other titles, right? Yeah.
In a way, it was really similar to Brawl, like the Subspace Emissary, in terms of the platforming sequences and the campaign and whatnot. But in terms of it being like this 5-minute bite-sized battle that you're doing, and then whatnot, like very unique, and it's something I definitely want to come back because it was fantastic. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess so the history of the console, like it was being supported up until I want to say like 2019 in a very real way. So even like post Switch, because I think in 2019 is when the new Nintendo 3DS came out, which was like a more power. It was like the 3DS Pro essentially, and then they had like the 2DS version, obviously. But the new Nintendo 3DS was like the more powerful version, and then there was a couple like notable exclusive games for that could only run on the stronger one. That was like Fire Emblem Hero or Warriors, I guess. Yeah, Fire Emblem Warriors, Binding of Isaac, which was one of them, and then I want to say it was some other Nintendo first party, but I can't remember what the other one was. But I remember like, man, both of those would be fantastic 3DS games, especially Binding of Isaac, like would be a fantastic one. And I would definitely debated like, man, should I get this new 3DS to check out some of these new games? And in the end, I'm glad I didn't, just because there wasn't a ton of support for the 3DS after that point. Obviously, the Switch selling like crazy, and they just essentially pulled out from the 3DS at that point, didn't develop any other first-party games. And then even third-party support was pretty minimal at that point, because why not put everything on the Switch if that's going to be this huge selling thing? And it has the mobile aspect combined with the home console version. So yeah, obviously with the Switch coming out, you would expect that it wouldn't be too long for them to support the 3DS. But yeah, I guess that what makes me sad about this is just like, once again, with the dual screen stuff, just like, man, a lot of these games now are just going to be unavailable for maybe ever. Like, I don't know if Nintendo will ever go back and do another double screen console. They did the DS, the 3DS. But like, if they always continue to make a hybrid console from here on out, and they never actually make another standalone handheld, these games are just kind of lost to time in a way. So it's a bit of a bummer, but I understand that's what happens.
It is strange. I have seen like emulators on PC with the double screen, so at
Right.
least there is like, if a youngin is growing up and doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
access to a 3DS but really wants to play some of these titles that, to your point, like it's not like it's gonna get ported to a modern system if it has two screens on there. Like an emulator is totally something separate. So yeah, because I think although there's not many titles that I really pull from, I still think that it was a cool idea. And
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo, I diss them all the time, but I'll never discredit their like just creativeness
Yeah.
on creating some of these just really unique things and sometimes very questionable. But
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we take our last break, and then I want to talk more about some of these specific games on the 3DS. Okay, we are back. So we were talking about Fire Emblem. Let's keep the conversation going on that because the 3DS is actually a great home for Fire Emblem in particular. Awakening, obviously, a huge point for the series. And then you had the Pokemon version with the kind of Conquest, the Fates, the three versions: Birthright, Conquest, Fates. That game, or three games, however you want to classify it. And then it had the remake of I think Fire Emblem 2 with Echoes, Shadows of Valencia. So those are all like three like pretty big deal Fire Emblem games. I think Awakening, if you're only going to get one, like definitely get Awakening.
Yeah.
That's the one to get. But Echoes, Shadow of Valencia is a fantastic game as well. Really, really good remake. It does a lot as a remake. It adds a ton of new features and stuff like that. And then also is the only way that you can play that game because the original one was only released in Japan and it's on like the NES or something. So that's obviously never been done. And it looks great and all that stuff. And I really had a good time with it as well. So that is, I think, a sore point. And then also with the Fire Emblem Warriors as well. Like that's pretty cool. That was on the 3DS. So like 4 pretty cool Fire Emblem games that this thing had. But yeah, Awakening, definitely a standout point. I know we talked about that a million times, me and you on the podcast. But man, Awakening is fucking fantastic.
And that, like, I remember that one even brought us together before podcast days,
Yeah.
working at Target, because
did,
a streamer I used to watch, shout out to the odd one, he...
Oh, yeah, I missed that guy.
Yeah, mostly, like, League of Legends, but he would just randomly, like, just stream Fire Emblem, and I had never heard of that series ever, and I was just random, like, I used to follow him all the time on Twitch, and he was playing it, and I was like, what is this game? Like, it's very anime. I'm very into anime, so, like, this is very intriguing. It's got just strategy elements to it, and there's, like, a lot of just, like, getting personal with the characters and, like, those, like, relationships amongst each other. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I've never heard of this before. And then, yeah, I think I was talking, or, yeah, I think I was working with you, and I saw it there, and I'm like, oh, I think I want to try this game. You're like, dude, no, I'll lend it to you, and then... the rest is history. You totally bonded from that.
You still have it till this
I
very
still
day.
have it. Yeah, I'm never giving it back. Funny enough, I'm pretty sure I've given it back, and then I'm like, hey, I never beat that game. Can I get that back?
I think so. And I have so much other strategy games to play that like I don't know when I'll be doing a replay of Awakening. It'll probably be a while. I'm still playing through Engage in the moment, so it'll be a bit before I get to that. You mentioned that the couple of Zelda games as well piqued your interest. Did you ever pick up any?
Ocarina of Time was
Okay.
lent to me by I'm just a thief or something because I still have that game. I'm
You're
pretty
the
sure
reason they just gave you the shop. You didn't spend any money. I'm just kidding.
I did buy like the I can't remember if it was the original Legend of Zelda, like the top down one where you go to like to the right
I
of the
think they have a
screen
couple of
and
the
it just
early
shifts you
games
over.
on the eShop.
Yeah, so I did purchase a couple of those. I think it was 1 and 2. Those ones are very difficult actually, and very like hard to figure out kind of where you're going. So I think I kind of got stuck at least on the first one there, but yeah, never got around to getting Majora's Mask. Now that I have the option to kind of get that on the is it the Switch now that they have? Oh, look at you.
Yeah, they have both those on the Nintendo Switch Online, as well as like every Zelda game that you just mentioned. Like all those
Yeah.
now are on the service, but of course you don't own those when you're subscribing to that service. So at some point, Switch support will be gone, just like the 3DS, and these games will get pulled off, and you don't own them, so you can't play them anymore. So that's kind of an unfortunate thing with Switch Online. But it's worth mentioning for those two games, like. The 3D versions for Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time are soft remakes, remasters as well, right? So when you go back and play those Nintendo Switch Online ones, you're playing the N64 version, and particularly for the Ocarina of Time, like the bottom screen functionality of having your inventory and stuff there is a great help for that game, especially the point people always bring up is the water temple, which is such a pain in the ass in that game because you have to constantly take on and off these steel boots so you float and stop floating. But on the 3DS version, you just like tap it on your screen, so you don't have to keep going into your
Very
menu, which
nice.
on the N64 is kind of laggy and stuff. So it like, yes, you can still play them on Nintendo Switch, but at least for Ocarina of Time, I think this is probably the best version that the
Yeah.
game's ever been released in, which is pretty cool.
No, I agree too, because that was the first time I had actually played Ocarina of Time, like ever. I
Yeah,
had been
that's
over.
a crazy thought.
Yeah, and like I had been to a friend's house that had played it on the N64, and like I'm playing on this little tiny screen, and still I'm just like, I can't believe how good the graphics look now on this game. Like it's such an improvement there. I again, I wish I had the larger screen just for like overall enjoyment of it, because the screen is very small. But yeah, I am really glad that I have that Ocarina of Time, and like I feel like I didn't know that that was the only one that kind of had that remake remaster. So. Who knows? Maybe I'll have to peruse on the eShop, collect
Yeah,
myself a Majora's Mask.
and yeah, I think Majora's Mask has the pretty much the same quality of life elements that Ocarina of Time. I don't even know if I've booted that up on my 3DS. I bought it because I love the concept of Majora's Mask, but like playing it, it's just such
Stressful.
a difficult and stressful and hard and scary game that I'm glad I own it. I don't know why I own it, but I even still have the N64 cartridge, but now I have it twice, I guess, and I'll never play it. I'll always just watch speedruns of that game, which I really enjoy as well. But yeah, and then also, so I've not actually played this yet, but I picked it up because I'm scared that these games are going to be gone forever. Can't really read that, but Zelda: A Link Between Worlds was the new Zelda game on the 3DS.
Okay.
And so I haven't booted it up yet because I just got it a few days ago. But like reviews for this thing are insane. I think it has like 95 on Metacritic or something. And
Holy
just like
shit.
everything I've always heard about it, and I don't think there's really a weak Zelda game. Like even the bad ones would maybe just be like those super early ones that are hard to get into now. But like in terms of the anything more modern, it's like, yeah, no, Zelda's like bar is just so high that even the lesser ones are still great. And so everything I hear about this game makes it sound like it is fantastic. I don't really know what the key mechanics are in it, but I will probably be checking that out at some point. I kind of want to dabble in it before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, because similar to that Mario ranking, I want to do a Zelda ranking, so I want to check out some of that game as well. So yeah, that's definitely one that that's like definitely one of those ones that, man, when that's gone, that sucks that game will just be lost to time.
Yeah.
That one is a chance where like Nintendo could do a remake remaster, or just like essentially a non 3DS port where they take away the bottom screen functionality and stuff and make it work on the Switch, like,
Yeah.
because it's Zelda, but you never know. It just might never exist again. So
The other one that popped to my mind, I can't remember if it was a 3DS title or just a regular DS title, but for Phantom Hourglass, that was the just regular
I think that's DS.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I remember playing that one, and I just found how like well a Legend of Zelda game actually works with the dual screen functionality, because in that one you could actually just like, there was like a notepad that you could just like draw on or like make notes
that's
for
cool.
yourself as you're going along, and like some of those puzzles are so good to like make a little note like, okay, no, this is here, and you don't have to bring up a screen or anything, like it's just right there on the bottom half of your DS. Just I remember like I think it was like my aunt's DS or something, like I played it briefly, but still I had enough to I had enough playtime on it to realize like how well that could actually work on a DS system like that. So it is kind of sad going forward that if we never see a dual screen functionality device again, we're getting away from that. I
think
don't
that
even
was
know
a feature that was like just built into the 3DS too. I don't know if I used it a ton, but I think there is just like a notepad that you can go to in the middle of your games and stuff. At least because I'm remembering that in the case of Metroid, and maybe it's just Metroid, what was the game called? Samus Returns. I like that might have just had a note kind of feature implemented in it too, where you could put things on the map and you could add notes and tags and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that is just like a 3DS general feature as well.
Okay, there you go.
That's pretty cool. And then yeah, another like kind of big one, I guess, is Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, which I think Travis is always like, he loves Luigi's Mansion, but I think that's why he bought a 3DS, was to play Dark Moon, and then he's like, this game kind of sucks, didn't like it. That is another one as well that I found for like $15. So I haven't booted it up yet, but I'm excited to check that out, because I like Luigi's Mansion. I like the third one as well. I like them enough, so it feels like I definitely want to play that whole trilogy there, play the middle game. You mentioned Pokemon as well. Yeah, I'm curious what was your Pokemon history to that point? Because then X being the one that you'd say is your favorite.
Yeah, I because I never had like I think it was Game Boy Color that was like kind of like the OG ones with like what would like Leaf Green and like those titles.
Yep.
I never had it, but like just again like being around friends that had them, I was always envious of that. That was another thing that I remember when I like jailbroke like my iPod Touch. Like I was able to find like an emulator for that.
Nice.
So then that's when I like actually experienced like Leaf Green for the first time, and man, what a great time that was. But yeah, so I really don't have like much like firsthand Pokemon experience, like aside from the show, just being like on the YTV or whatever growing up. Like
Yeah.
I always watched that show, and because like Pokemon cards were really relevant too when we were growing up. So like I'd always just been around Pokemon, but the first like outlet definitely wasn't just from the video game. And like that's what I was saying, like Pokemon X, I don't even know if that's like a well regarded title, but like in my mind that's the best Pokemon game because that was just the one that I fully got into. That was the first one I got like a shiny Pokemon on too. Shout out to my
Nice.
level 100 shiny Articuno. I still got
Wow,
on
nice.
that on my device here. Oh, I guess it's not on the cartridge, but yeah, so
Yeah.
I love that game so much. And yeah, I don't have any really other titles that like bounce out to me. I have one friend that's really big into Pokemon. Like he just wants to complete the Pokedex. So every time like he gets like Sword and Shield, he'll buy like both titles like right
Right.
then and there. But he only ever plays the one because like he'll get his Pokemon and then transfer it over through like the Pokebank. So then shout out to you, Tyler. Not any of the Tylers that you know because we know so many Tylers, but another Tyler who just lent me the Sword title. So I have that on the Switch. I think that or. Like, I can't even remember if it was the Sword or the Moon one. Whatever one
Sword,
it
yeah,
was.
Sword and Shield are on the Switch.
Okay, then it is that title then that he's lent to me. I haven't even really plugged it in. I don't
And maybe
think.
Sun and Moon as well. I think that might be. I can't remember. And now there's like
Yeah.
Scarlet and Violet. I
Yeah.
think the 3DS had quite a few, right? Because yeah, X and Y, as you mentioned. I feel like Sun and Moon was a 3DS thing. That actually does sound correct now that I'm thinking about it a bit more.
Hmm.
I want to say there was another one. Then I had. It's funny that your like big Pokemon experience was on the 3DS because mine was too. Actually, I've not really played too many Pokemon games. In fact, I've played more of the spin-off things than the actual like just standard games. But I had the same experience where my cousin had original Game Boy and yeah, one of those original Pokemon games, and I always just thought it was the coolest thing and always wanted to play it. But yeah, my big jumping in point was with Omega Ruby, I think it was on the 3DS. And yeah, that was like still remains to be my like favorite one. Not that I've played many since then, but yeah, I just had a great time with that. So I feel like the 3DS was really a pretty thriving era for Pokemon.
Yeah.
And beyond that too, like to your point, like the bank and stuff like that. There's all sorts of other apps that if you're a big Pokemon fan, like make sure in these next few days you like go download some of that stuff because I think there's even a couple of those free things like bank and whatnot might be free. You just download them, so you should do that now before you can't anymore and stuff. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Let's see what else. I recently picked up Mario Tennis Open on the 3DS,
Nice.
which is actually really cool. Like mechanically, it's a very interesting game where like I guess the central mechanic of it is that there's like on your bottom screen you have the different types of moves, whether it's like a cut or like backspin, topspin, things like that. And there's like 6 or 7 different like button like ways you can hit the ball, and then like on the court, there'll be like these little circles will pop up, and they have a different color to them. And your goal is to, like if you hit the ball in that circle and you hit it with the same color that matches, like the top spin is red or backspin's blue, whatever it is, then you get like a even like stronger hit. And it's one of those like Mario sports games because they always go back and forth between like super arcadey, like Super Mario Strikers or Mario Strikers Charged on the Wii, and then like something like Battle League, which is like way more mechanics focused and not so much about those like crazy Mario Party-ish things. It's like more about like tight mechanics. And so I feel like Tennis Open is more in that realm of things where it does seem like a very mechanics heavy thing. Whereas, I remember when we've played Mario Tennis on N64 for Gauntlet and stuff, it's just a mess of like spamming special moves and Luigi's doing his like swimming thing and like all these flower attacks, and it's just a total mess. And it's fun for what it is, but it's nice to have a mix of like, okay, there's like these crazy ones, but then there's also just the more like mechanics heavy ones. And like, man, I was going through one of these tournaments in Open, and it was like, this is fucking hard. Yoshi is crushing me over here. I had to like work pretty hard. I was playing as Diddy Kong. I was happy to see him in there too. So definitely recommend that. Like that's been a lot of fun playing through that game. And there's a ton of sports games, ton of Mario parties and stuff on the 3DS. I can't justify spending hundreds of dollars to get all of them. But tennis I found for a nice price, so that's been a good fun playing that.
Mario Party on there, eh? That's kind of surprising
There's like
for me.
4 of them. It's crazy.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Is it like ones that like are on other consoles as well that like translated over to 3DS, or they're 3DS exclusive?
I think some of them might be a situation where it's on like the Wii U and the 3DS, so there you can get like whichever version you want. It's like slightly different on the handheld, and obviously it's like got the double screens and stuff like that. But obviously Wii U's going away as well. But yeah, I know one of them is like Mario Party, the top 100, which I think is like 100 of the best mini games essentially from across the series that you can play in there. And then there's like just some random new one, and maybe there's one that are like remasters or something of the Wii versions or something like that. But I know, once again, just going on the eShop, you put in Mario, and there's like 30 Mario games on the 3DS alone, right? So it's like it's so impossible to just conceptualize all these things, and it's hard to justify getting all of them, and like especially in this short time period. And yeah, it sucks that like Nintendo. Wouldn't it be great if in this last month at least they put like huge sales on all these things? So you can get like 80% off on some of these things that are going to be gone potentially forever for some of these games. Because there have been some publishers that have done that. Like I think Capcom is doing a pretty big sale on there and a couple other ones. And I'm hoping in these next few days that some other publishers go and just put huge sales on these things before they're gone forever. But yeah, Nintendo at this point, I think it's pretty clear they are not going to do that. So all their games are, I mean, it's the 3DS games, so they're not, $80 or anything like that. But still, they add up, especially if you're trying to get Pokemon and stuff. There's 2 versions.
Yeah.
There's like 6 of them on there. It's like it gets pretty expensive if you want to get this stuff, and if you're not into pirating games, which I don't know. I will do it here or there, I guess, but like generally, I like to buy and own things and whatnot. So for me, I guess it feels a bit more dire when the store goes down.
Yeah, no, and like I feel like there'll be titles that some people will be interested in, but like if it is still in that $50-$60 range, it's probably they're just probably gonna have to let it go and just never get a chance to play it. Damn you, Nintendo.
Exactly. Which, I mean, to an extent, like obviously if they're not profitable in the 3DS anymore and it's just costing them money, I get it. But yeah, from definitely the game preservation standpoint, it's just sad to see some of these things going. I wanted to quickly rifle off. I made a list here of things that I'm like, oh man, should I buy this in this next week here? So just put these on people's radar potentially. But there's like, once again, like 4 or 5 like Mario and Luigi games, which are kind of like the Paper Mario games. Are like RPGs with the Mario Bros, which are I've not really played any of these, as I mentioned. So it's like I'm interested in checking them out, but it's so hard to justify all these ones. But the one that looks really cool to me is Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, where you like literally go inside of Bowser, and the whole game like takes place on like this molecular level where you're going through his like intestines and stuff like that.
Osmosis Jones.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing. Magic school bus moment. And like, I don't know, it just looks like really cool. So I think I might pick up that one. Kid Icarus Uprising, of course, that's a series that has not had too many entries. I definitely want to pick this one up just because this was from Sakurai, like the guy who makes Smash Bros. Like just in between Smash Bros, he made a Kid Icarus game, and like I just really want to see what's up with that. I want to check it out. Pocket Card Jockey, I've not played it yet, but it's just like in all these, I've listened to so many podcasts now and watched so many videos of people like these are the must-play games on the 3DS before like get these before the shop goes down, and that's always one of them. Pocket Card Jockey, this weird. I think it's like a Game Freak game, so the Pokemon creators just made some weird one-off kind of thing. I could be wrong about that, but looking at that, Dragon Quest 7 and 8 are apparently some of the best in the series that are just kind of going to be lost to time after the stores go offline. Apparently the Mario Golf on 3DS is really good, so check that out. Pushmo, this other like puzzle game. So those are just a few shout outs from me. And then, I mean, I think for me personally, it'd be like get Fire Emblem Awakening and Shadows of Valentia, but if you only get one, get Awakening. Probably Zelda you should probably get. Take a look at some of the Mario stuff. Maybe you want to get a couple of those. And obviously, if you're a Pokemon person, like you should be scared and you should get all these games. Especially if you are like your friend Tyler and you want to transfer over some of these Pokemon that are exclusive to this stuff.
If you're
like,
a collector.
Yeah, you're going to need to do some of that. And I think you can even do that. Like if you have if you get like Leaf Green or whatever, that's on. They have like those old ones, a couple of those old ones on the 3DS shop. You can like get those and transfer those Pokemon forward into Bank and then Bank into your Switch and stuff like that. Which is it's cool that you can do that. So obviously, if you're a hardcore Pokemon person, you probably already know about this stuff, but you should get on that before this thing goes down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just checking at my own titles to try and see which
Yeah.
ones. I had a Mario title on there. I couldn't see it in my save data or anything like that, but it was like a 3DS centered one where it had like 3D like
3D
elements.
Land, maybe.
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
those,
that's what it was. My sister got me that one.
Nice.
So that was the Mario title I had on there. I had the first Legend of Zelda, then Legend of Zelda 2, whatever the subtitle
Link to
is.
the
I can't-
Past, was
yeah,
it, or- yeah.
I it sounds right.
Well, there's also like there's Zelda 2, but I think Link to the Past is a big deal. So that might be
Yeah,
one.
so I had those two titles, and then I mean just the other ones that we've already talked about today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you go. I think that's gonna be it. Because by the time this time next week, I mean the shop will kind of be offline or just about to kick it. So yeah, good final reminder there. Thank you, Kirklin, for joining me on this discussion because I
Yeah, we got
definitely
our-
wanted to rave about it. But yeah.
I'm happy we just have like our DSs here too, just like in the retirement party for them.
Yeah, exactly.
They still function so well. They
the
have so much
funeral,
life
yeah.
left in them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so once again, thank you for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Next week, once again, Resident Evil 4 Remake review. If you have any questions or thoughts on that, send them my way. And then, yeah, check out Patreon because we got all sorts of arcane goodness going on over there. And we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you later.